Hello everyone, Magdalena here, Wolf of Coins. Nice to see you all again. Recently I made a short video about my Christmas tree and about some pagan stuff connected to the tree were included there. I got some nice comments under it, and I thought that maybe I would do something more. If you're interested, please stick around. It will be about celebrations of winter equinox in Poland. Well, Christmas / winter equinox, and what customs we have today and what are their roots. So yeah, I have a weird glare on my face because I have, look, it's funny. I have my iPad here with the notes I prepared for this, so I will try to move it. So yeah, I thought it would be a great topic for December because, you know, Christmas time. I love Christmas. It's hands down my favorite holiday during the year. Granted, there are other wonderful holidays in Poland, but this one it's the one. Even though priests always, you know, they preach that no, Easter is the most important holiday, you should not think that Christmas is the most important. But yeah, it's so deep in people's hearts that it just simply cannot be changed. So yeah, so let's talk about this very exciting time. Let's start with a name, because we have, like, for example, in some other traditions we get the name like Yule, or yeah, various like pagans prefer to use, for obvious reasons, not Christmas but Yule, for this period. And yeah, in Poland the official name is Boże Narodzenie, which means God's nativity, so the God being born, but not mentioning which God. So this is cool. This is cool, I mean, also for pagans in the closet who want to enjoy the time, but not necessarily as Christians, right? The other unofficial but very popular name is gwiazdka, which means star or small star, but we use diminutive forms for not only making something smaller, but making something more, how to describe it, either to show our affection for it, or actually respect it also. It's like, for example, we say pieniążki for money, which is diminutive from pieniądze, which is money. But we use it in polite conversations. So the core meaning of gwiazdka would be the star. Or just commonly we would say, around Christmas time we would just say the holidays, święta. So if it's near Easter we would also say święta. It's because the person we talk to already knows which holidays we mean. But there are older names as well. So some of them are Szczodre Gody, which is more or less like generous. Szczodre means generous, and Gody are used for various celebrations. Or Godowe Święto, so yeah, the holiday that when we celebrate. Or kolenda. This word is still in use in Polish, and it just changed its meaning. One, it means Christmas carol. Two, it means the when the priest is visiting the houses between Christmas and the carnival, something like that. And yeah, so now let's describe how it looks for Polish people, because we have some customs that are not commonly known in other countries. So let's get to it. The most important celebration for us is Christmas Eve. It's like the thing, not Christmas Day. Then we just continue celebrating, but Christmas Eve is the most important thing. We call it Vigilia from Latin, which means that we are awaiting, we are vigilant. And yeah, we traditionally we start the Christmas Eve dinner when the first star in the sky is spotted. So when I was a kid, I would stand at the window and look to see this first star, and then to announce to everybody, yes, it's there, now we can start. So again, the star is very important there. Then before we start eating, we share the wafer, white flat thing, very similar to the wafers used during the Holy Mass in Catholic Church. The ingredients are basically the same, but it's rectangular and usually with some pictures pressed onto it. So we take it and we break it with everyone present, and we say best wishes for the next year, and then we exchange. Everybody has their own piece of the wafer, and then you break it with someone and you eat from theirs and they eat from yours. So that's something very, very important. Everybody does it basically. Even also my aunt, who lives in the United States, she would, together with a Christmas card, she would every year send us a piece of this wafer to share it, like, you know, metaphorically share it with us. Well, maybe not even metaphorically, just so that we could, you know, exchange it between ourselves. So what I can say about it is that the role of bread in Slavic ritual has always been extremely important. There are some researchers that even think that the Slavic idea of the world was it's in the shape of a bread, that it's like a huge bread made in the heavenly oven. So that's how important it was. Even in Poland, there are some people still that if like a crumb or a piece of bread falls on the floor, they would pick it up and kiss it before eating it, you know, to say sorry. So yeah, that's very important. Then we also have this belief that at midnight, so the moment between Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, the animals can speak, like in human language, and it's probably from the idea that the animals were messengers between the souls of ancestors and us, and on that special moment they could give us that message. There is also a custom to share the wafer also with your animals. There are special wafers that are colored, because those for people are white and for animals there are yellow or pink. And yeah, it was very, in the older days it was very important to give this wafer to all of your animals so that they would be healthy during the year. So yeah, another very important thing when you prepare the table for the Christmas supper, Christmas Eve supper, there has to be one seat, one plate empty, left empty, and nobody is allowed to sit there. These days it's being explained that, well, in Christian tradition, that is because we are Christians, so we leave this one spot for any, you know, pilgrim or homeless person who arrives at our doorstep, so we can share food with them and offer our hospitality to them. But to be honest, it's actually not where it rooted from. The original meaning of it was we were inviting our ancestors to dine with us, to be with us. In older times there were possibly even more spots, like 3, and if anybody, you had to avoid sitting on the chair that was left empty, and if you by accident did that, you were supposed to apologize for this. So I think it doesn't play well with the idea it's for an alive person. Nobody was supposed to sit there because the guest was invisible. And so Slavic people had at least 4 ancestor celebrations during the year. The ancestor worship was extremely important. Some people say even up to 6, like 4 major and 2 smaller celebrations. So yeah, it was a very important thing, and there was a belief that the souls of the ancestors come from the other world for winter to our homes. So they arrive at the winter solstice and they stay till spring equinox. So during Christmas time, so between Christmas and January the 6th, which is commonly called the Three Kings in Poland, you could imagine that your home was filled with souls, and you had to be very careful not to sit on somebody, as I said. I also read that it was the best time for making babies, and it's logical because, you know, you're at home anyway. But Slavic people believed that it's not enough to have sex to make babies. You also need a soul to be around, so it could be incarnated when you're having sex. So thus, when you had so many souls flying around, it was the easiest to get pregnant. That was the belief. So it seems that there was a pair of a god and goddess who were the guides of the souls, and they would bring the souls with them. There are some remnants of this in the tradition, in Poznań, for example, the person who they have, instead of Santa Claus, they have a person called Gwiazdur, which means a star, but it's a male. Like also we have this word for a male celebrity, you know, he is a star, Gwiazdur. And so he comes and he has an assistant, I believe it's an angel, but there's a pair. And in Russia there is the Grandpa Frost, Ded Moroz, with the snowflake lady. And it's very possible that they were the guides that brought the souls with them, and also possibly some presents for kids. So what about persons bringing presents? As I said, in Poznań we get Gwiazd, but in various parts of Poland you will get different answers to that question, who brings you presents. There are many places that people would say Saint Nicholas, Święty Mikołaj. Mikołaj is Nicholas in Polish. But you would get the answer that it's an angel, or it's the Gwiazdor, or it's the infant or the baby, dzieciątko. So I thought, okay, it's baby Jesus bringing you a present. Maybe it has some, because the baby Jesus is arriving on Christmas, it makes sense. But then I did some research and I saw some pictures, because people still dress up as the baby, and you would be surprised. I will try and post a photo of it here if I find it, but it's basically a grown woman with a white veil on her head and some colorful ribbons. How it is connected to the baby? Well, it's just a very, very thin layer of Christianity over older customs, simply. So yeah, that's that. Oh yeah, on Christmas Eve we are fasting. So we don't eat meat, but it completely doesn't mean that we are fasting. It just means we eat different things than usual, because most people on Christmas Eve just eat till here. And some people also say, oh, it's Christmas, it won't make you fat. Don't worry. So yeah, what do we eat? The most important things are fish. Other than that, a lot of poppy seed. Very traditional thing to drink is dried fruit infusion. Mushrooms, a lot of mushrooms. Nuts. There is this traditional dish called kutia, which is grains of wheat with poppy and honey. Also, there is the tradition that there has to be 12 dishes on the table, which is explained that it's to commemorate 12 apostles, but it's not very convincing. It's much more convincing that it's one dish for the month of the upcoming year. So those things that I just mentioned, of course we have a lot of cake, we have a lot of other things, but those things that I mentioned, they are mostly believed to be the food of the dead. Maybe not necessarily the fish, but poppy seed, dried fruit, mushrooms. These are all food of the dead. And with fish, well, the fish is also a creature of the other world, because it lives in the water, and all of the seas and lakes and other watery places are believed to be, well, in folklore, in the mythical way of thinking, these are the other world creatures. So there is a strong connection thing going on, I think, in here. Also, what we have from the records, as I mentioned in the previous video about the Christmas tree and the creation myth, the problem with Slavic beliefs is the fact that we have so little written down, and usually it's by people who were not the part of the culture. So a lot of meaning got lost. But we have some scraps that we can pull on, and there's this book by Brother Rudolf, who lived in Jędrzejów in Silesia in Poland, and he described a lot of evil pagan customs of the Slavic people living there at the time. And he since he was not Slavic himself, so he was explaining things using things from other cultures. So, for example, he wrote about Christmas that they do a feast for their Lady Holda, the Queen of Heavens. So, Frau Holda is known from Germanic folklore, and she's obviously connected to the goddess of the other world, the queen of the dead, Hel, or Hela. So there's this lead, and then we get in another source about Eastern Slavic people. They do a feast for Rodzanica, which is one of the names of the goddess of fate. And yeah, there might be some connection here. Next up, yes, we have a Christmas tree. Christmas tree is basically a staple thing in Poland these days, but it was not so for a really long time when it appeared. Well, it came basically from Germany to our country, and at first it was only seen in the big cities. And the older custom would be so-called podłaźniczka, which was also, it was not a full tree, it was like a big chunk of the top of the tree, of like a fir or a spruce, and it would be hanged from the ceiling, and it would be decorated as well. So it's not such a big difference, I would say, but yeah. Another tradition that is still celebrated, for example, in Ukraine would be Diduch, which means grandfather, ancestor. And it was the last straw bundle collected from the fields. When the season was over, it was the last bundle, and it would be revered and kept at home, and it would be decorated, and it put in an important spot during Christmas. And it would be, and then it would be destroyed, burned on spring equinox. We have, for example, in Poland, we have straws put under the table. So it's said that it's the reminder of the baby Jesus being in the stables, with oxen and donkeys. But it can very well be connected to the to those agricultural customs that we have. There, as far as I know, there was also a custom of fortune telling, from pulling those straws and telling some fortunes from them on Christmas. And then, yeah, there is still already dying out, but there used to be this tradition of so-called kolenda. So yeah, it can be the name of the whole celebrations, and also the name of this tradition. So it would be a group of young people dressing up and going from house to house, performing something, performing traditional themes, and then getting some food and sweets. So it's actually very similar to trick-or-treating that you get on Halloween in the English tradition or American. But yeah, yeah. So basically, accepting them to your home and them performing what they came to perform would make sure that you will have luck during the next year. Like your whole family will have luck and be fertile and happy. So the group was there was the contents of the group would change according to the area and time period, but very often there were not only like human or demonic creatures, also animals connected with fertility. So it would be in old times, where they will still not extinct, aurochs. I hope I pronounce it right. It's tur in Polish. A goat or a rooster or a horse or a stork or a ram. Sometimes they would walk around with a live horse. Also, there are some records of live aurochs walking in those kolenda traditions. I hope I don't forget anything, even though I prepared those notes. It's very possible that I forgot stuff, so if you watch it and I said something wrong or I forgot something important, please let me know. What I find important, in those role play performing things, an important part was this main figure, this aurochs, Tur or Turon. He would pretend to collapse and die, and people would start crying over him, and all of a sudden he would jump up and dance, and like he was being reborn. So it's probably very much connected to the sun being reborn. Another thing, another component very important of this group was the star. So there was a person appointed to carry a huge star on a stick, and also the person carrying it would be called Gieysztor, so the male star. And so some researchers believe that in the older times it was not the star, it was the sun. It was connected to the cycles of the sun being reborn. However, there is not we don't see any remnants of it left in the language, because we have the star for the name of the holiday. We have the star that we look at through the window. We have the name of the person bringing presents. It's all connected to the stars, not to the sun. There's not there's nothing supports from the language level. So I'm not sure. I am sure that the solar cycle was very much celebrated by Slavic people, but I am also pretty convinced that the stars were also celebrated, and they were very important, especially during this winter solstice time. Like with the queen of the skies. Oh yeah, because in Polish the name for the sky and heaven, it's the same word. There are no separate words. So the queen of heavens or queen of the sky, it's the same thing. Królowa niebios. So I believe there are some remnants of worship of some kind of sky deity here. There is a tradition still alive of foretelling the weather between Christmas and 6th of January. So basically you would observe what weather you have on given day, and then Christmas Day would be January. Then 26th of December would be February, and so on and so forth. For 12 days you take notes about the weather, and it will mean what weather you will get in that month. The whole period from Christmas till January the 6th, the Three Kings, was called Dwunastnica, which, well, it means 12 something. So if I were to translate it to English, it would mean just 12 days. It's a period of 12 days. So it's possible that the celebrations of winter equinox were really long. Oh yeah, what I forgot to say about, I started talking about trick or treating. So some researchers believe that Slavic people celebrated New Year on spring equinox, and that it got moved very much as Japanese New Year. Actually, they used to celebrate it when spring would come, but now to match the Western calendar, they celebrate on January the 1st, and it's the New Year. So since it got moved, some customs connected to celebrating the beginning of the new year also probably got lifted to the other date. And this kolenda thing I talked about, it's probably something like that. What is the hint for me here is also that for Halloween, so you have this trick or treating, similar thing, and in Celtic calendar, Samhain was the beginning of the new year. So it's a similar custom for the beginning of the new year. It's just in different spots of the calendar. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is what my grandma told me about, that every year for the new year, in their village, they would have those celebrations. And there would be like also role play. There would be some young men from the community impersonating the new year, and an old man impersonating the old year, and they would meet, and the old year would greet the newcomer, and he would say what great things happened in his time, stuff like that. And grandma said that when my great-grandfather, so her father, was young, he would always be the new year, and then when he got older, he was always the old year in those celebrations, which is a very cool family story, I'd say. So I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please use the opportunity to ask them in the comments section. And yeah, I wish you wonderful time before winter solstice, before Christmas, before anything that you celebrate. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Oh, one more thing. So when I was preparing for this video, I started having so many ideas for other videos that I could introduce some content from books that are available only in Polish and that are not that well known either. So I could, talk about some theories that some researchers have. But to do that, I would first have to make like a small series of videos as an introduction to if you're not familiar with analyzing myths and traditions, so you would get the tools to understand what I'm talking about. So I'm not sure if it's really worth it, if there will be interest in this. If you're interested, please let me know. Should I do this? Because I have this idea about, there's in one book I read about one very popular in Poland story about of one of the ancient rulers of Poland, how it can be interpreted as winter solstice celebrations. So yeah, for Polish speakers, it's about Król Popiel. So yeah, please let me know if it's something you would have at least a little interest in, and I will see what I can do. So again, thank you so much for watching. Bye!